All right. Welcome back. Welcome back, everybody, to the Sunday Wire. I'm your host, Patrick Henningsen. We're streaming out live on the Alternate Current Radio Network and also at 21stcenturywire.com. Thank you for joining us on this live broadcast. And if you miss any of the live broadcasts, if you're just tuning in now, you can catch this after the show on the podcasting format. Thank you so much for rejoining us. Now, our next guest is an intrepid writer, a filmmaker, an author of many books. There's a link on the show page to a list of his titles, which you can delve into. And his name is Andre Vltchek. And he's joining us right now on the live link from South America, from the country of Chile. Hello, Andre.
Patrick, hello. Great to be back.
Great to have you back. It's been a while, Andre. I was getting worried. We didn't know what happened to you. But from what I hear, Andre, you know, a lot of the world is coming out of this so-called lockdown from COVID. Countries, European countries, the schools are open. Life is returning to normal. Some parts of the U.S. are even kind of returning to normal. A lot of Asia has returned to normal. But there's a few countries that are clinging to this crisis, and they're actually keeping very strict lockdown measures going now. And one of those countries is the country that you're in right now, which is Chile. This is extraordinary. We thought South America might be more relaxed, some of these countries, about this crisis and want to kind of get over it as soon as possible. What is going on in Chile?
Well, the main reason, actually the only reason I disappeared, Patrick, for quite some time is because I'm locked down in Chile already since March, when I arrived here from after 8 days journey from Hong Kong. So basically, I was processing my new books and writing enormous amount of essays, but I couldn't move. And this is the first time in my life that I stayed for such a long time in one place since I was perhaps 15. So I never stay longer than 1 or 2 weeks. I'm traveling all over the world, covering the events on all continents. But in Chile, where I landed in March, since March, actually, there is an absolutely draconic and absolutely unreasonable and bizarre lockdown. Bizarre, of course, if you don't analyze and if you don't realize what is going on, but very logical from the point of view of Chilean dictatorship or Chilean regime, more precisely. Chile has been officially, Chile now is in an extremely tough lockdown for 1 month, but in reality, it is already since March. People are going crazy, economy is collapsing, families are getting ruined, but President Sebastian Pinera, a right-winger and supporter of former dictator Augusto Pinochet, is actually getting mileage out of it, and he's making sure that the protests, powerful protests which shook Chile at the end of last year, will not return, at least for some period of time.
And those were huge. I know you reported on this earlier when the protests were happening. You did a number of great video reports as well, and on this show. But you also, at that time, Andre, the protesters had certain demands. They were very close, or they had got some agreement in terms of a national referendum. I mean, this is a big deal, and constitutionally in Chile, and that was already supposed to happen months ago. And what's happened to the progress of these sort of demands and these things that came out of that national protest? What's the status of this?
Well, they scared the population into submission, at least for some time. So when I was making videos for you, and we were working very closely at that time, me and 21st Century Wire, on the coverage of the protests. What was going on then? People began waking up. They realized that democracy was actually stolen from them. So when the officially democracy returned after Pinochet stepped down, the country was governed by several coalitions, so-called concertations between officially left-wing socialists and officially, at least, center-left Christian Democrats. And during that period of time, it looked that democracy was returning to people and that Chile is going to have a brand new start. But in fact, they found out last year, they began realizing that there was a deal between the old dictatorship and that concertation and the elites in Chile, and actually nothing whatsoever changed. So Chile continued for decades to be governed by the neoliberal model. Education, healthcare were still privatized, and big companies, including agribusiness, were actually running the country. So people arose. There was a huge uprising. Thousands, tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands were battling police and the army around then Plaza Baquedano, which was then renamed to Plaza Italia, and officially the Dignity Square. Some 30 people lost their lives. More than 300 people lost their eyes because police was extremely brutal. They were shooting protesters to the face with rubber bullets. So it was a very powerful uprising, very dangerous, because Pinera sent tanks to the streets, and it began looking like, after the coup on 9/11, 1973, tanks and military police battling protesters right in the middle of Santiago de Chile. And then it looked like Pinera's popularity was collapsing. It was in one digit, 7 to 9%. And then suddenly COVID-19 or coronavirus hit. And there was a good excuse for the government, good in parentheses, to actually reintroduce martial law to create extremely tough restrictions of movement and all that. So just to give you an example, one of the symbols, like what is happening now in the US with the statues, right? The statues are going down of Columbus and so on. In Chile, there was a huge statue in the middle of the square where the uprising was taking place around Baquedano, and it was a statue to Chilean General Baquedano, who was basically a butcher who murdered countless amount of Peruvians and Bolivians in a war of Pacific, in which Chile, teamed up with the United Kingdom and destroyed two countries. Bolivia lost access to the sea and so on. So Baquedano proudly decorated the square. And the protesters totally desecrated the statue, and they put the graffiti, and they were trying to put it down, but it was so humongous, so enormous, they couldn't do anything, but it was desecrated. And then one of the first things when the COVID-19 hit and Santiago was under quarantine, or basically under the martial law almost, the government restored the statue. They painted it beautifully, as if it would be a priority. And Pinera, the President Pinera, one evening came to take selfie in front of it, like saying, look, what are you going to do? I'm winning. So now it's standing there. The city is trashed still because, it's full of homeless now because economy collapsed, full of graffitis from the uprising time. It's totally destitute. Look, but the statue is beautiful, it's black, beautifully painted, newly painted. And it is kind of a symbol of how the revolution or uprising had been at least postponed.
And yeah, that's incredible. So you said graffitis everywhere. I know there was a lot of damage that I saw in your reports, art, cultural centers and small businesses, cafes, all the really interesting places that made, Chilean culture really vibrant and colorful. All this has been shut down. and in disrepair as well. So the city must look like it's just gone through a war, basically.
Yes, it is totally different place. I used to live in Chile 20 years ago, approximately. And there came the time when I was leaving, when I said to many people that, look, it's more interesting now than Rome or Amsterdam, because Chile was such an incredibly vibrant culture. They had enormous cultural centers, theaters, concert halls. You wanted opera, got opera. You wanted Algerian jazz, you got Algerian jazz. Or, things totally that you couldn't hear or see anywhere else in the world, from the greatest singers and musicians to avant-garde left-wing theater. It was brilliant in that period of time. And when I came back, it was already deteriorated. It was even before the uprising. Chile became this neoliberal model again. There was things became mass-produced in terms of food. A lot of chain restaurants from the United States, a lot of junk pop music. I mean, in my days, 20 years ago, you would go to a cafe and people were so obsessed with everything different. They would listen to Arabic music, to African music. They wanted to hear something totally different, see something different. Now it is becoming like Indonesia almost, neoliberal model, which is obsessed with making money and all that. During this lockdown, you wouldn't believe I have a Yahoo UK on the computer because I want to see something sometimes what the official propaganda in the West is saying. So whenever I open a Yahoo UK, there is a big banner, local banner advertisement. It says President Pinera is going to tell you how to become rich. In Spanish, can you imagine? I mean, the people are losing their livelihood. There is a tremendous decline in terms of the GDP. The GDP is down 5.3%. In entire Latin America, 30 million people are hitting the poverty. In Chile, there are riots of poor people who cannot anymore survive. And the president is sending tanks against them and water cannons in the cold. We have winter, it's cold now. So they're spraying these poor people with water cannons who can hardly eat. And then you go to Yahoo and what does it say? President Pinera will teach you how to become rich. Become rich, whom is he going to teach? Few people who are playing stock market. So it's absolutely immoral what is happening here. So Chile is totally collapsing now. Morally, it is collapsing. The Mapuche leaders, Mapuche are indigenous people in the south. They were always discriminated. They were robbed of everything. The land, forests are being cut down for agribusiness and all that. And what do we learn? That on June 4th, one of the Mapuche leaders, Alejandro Treuquil, was killed in the south. And nobody has, except Telesur in Venezuela, had any decent reports on this. And apparently this is not the only case. I mean, Mapuche people are getting cropped under the cover of COVID, of lockdown. The same what is happening in Brazil, where the indigenous people are getting infected, indigenous leaders are being killed and battered, and the rainforest is being disappeared because no government or non-government organizations or press can actually enter rainforest under the cover of COVID.
And Bolivia, similar things are happening under COVID restrictions?
Oh, God, yes, of course. Thank you. Yes, in Bolivia, of course, as well. Everything is being postponed. The referendum that you mentioned, constitution referendum in Chile, is being indefinitely postponed. Bolivian elections are being indefinitely postponed. I'm here sitting here with my four-wheel drive, ready to hit the road. I left Asia to cover Bolivian elections and referendum here. I was supposed to drive to Mapuche land in the 10th region and further south. And what am I doing? I'm sitting here in the apartment overlooking snow-covered Andes, and all I can do is to go to some little park where the owners are airing their dogs, because this is the only exceptions that people have. This is not some British lockdown. This is real stuff. There is a new in this fascist regime. You can go to up to 5 years to prison if you defy the lockdown, and you can pay $15,000 of fine. Can you imagine? This is okay. This is OECD country, and it's on the highest human development index of UNDP officially. But it is a country where people are happy with the incomes of like $7,000-8,000 a year. And what is it? $15,000 for defying the lockdown, or 5 years in prison? And they mean it. There are police, there are Marines everywhere. There is a riot police. This is unbelievable.
And how long are you allowed to go out each day? What's the What are the rules, official rules on that?
You are not allowed to go at all. You can go only if you have a dog. You can go for 20 minutes to the radius of 2 blocks. Or you can go if you have a permission. You can prove that you need a food, or you have to go to pharmacy. So you can go twice a week. And the old people, can you imagine? Old people are totally locked down. They can go nowhere. So just look at the logic of all this. You protect these people who actually need to exercise. They need to. Some of them are lonely. Some of them are, and you basically kill them almost by these lockdowns just to protect them. So it is. Look, I have a mixed feeling. We agree on something, you and I, or disagree on others when it comes to COVID. But here, this is so absolutely clearly a fascist insanity that this government is doing. And the problem with Chile is they always try to ape the West, particularly Europe. So they, on the surface of it, they do precisely what France or Italy or Spain or UK did, but only on the surface, because they cannot actually do it, even to the extent as Europe did it. Even if Europe is wrong, they did it twice worse in Chile. There is 7,144 deaths in a country of 18 million. And this is, so you take it for per capita basis. Chile has had 236,000 infections today. It ranks number 9 in the world. But if you rank it on per capita basis, basically on 1 million inhabitants, then it's number 2 after Qatar. That's insane. Mm-hmm. So they're even if they would, even if this lockdown would be supposed to save human lives, it doesn't. It's the opposite. Mexico is an enormous country, like 10 times bigger in terms of population than Chile. It is 175,000. And even in terms of deaths, it is 20,000. It's a lot. But Chile has 7,000 with 18 million.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, it doesn't make sense they have 4,200 deaths to date in Chile, population, like you said, 18.
7,144. They are totally screwing up numbers. They fired the Minister of Health because they keep manipulating even the press, which is totally obedient. It was neoliberal system, it's owned by corporations. Even press is starting to yell at the government. They cannot take it anymore. So the official number of death today in Chile is 7,144. They keep adding 30%. They keep taking back. It's going up and down. There is nothing like going up and reaching plateau. It looks like some kind of a dragon's back. It's up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. They added 30% of casualties because they couldn't calculate correctly. So this is this collapse of the neoliberal medical system, which they kept. The great Maggie Thatcher's example that she kept giving to everybody about how great Chilean economy really was. It was built on the Chicago School of Economy. All these people like von Hayek, like Friedman, all this big wet dream of Thatcher and Reagan and all these things that they even couldn't implement in the UK or in the US to the full extreme. So this was a laboratory, the experimental laboratory. And look at it now. Look at it now. They cannot look at their medical system. They cannot really fight even COVID to the point that it would resemble at least some normalcy. Even Brazil is worse. It's better than Brazil is a famous case, right, of absolute collapse, and it is collapse. But Chile, in terms of numbers, is worse than Brazil, and the government is still there, and nobody is suddenly fighting.
Yeah. Well, what we're finding in the UK is that there's more deaths that are being attributed to lockdown than to COVID, like deaths resulting from lockdown. People who needed cancer screenings who didn't get them, people who have strokes or heart conditions, they're not getting the early treatment that normally can save lives. This is one of the collateral damage from this kind of intense lockdown policy. And I think Chile... Yeah,
precisely, but it is. I have to say, from Latin America, I have to say one thing. Of course, what happened in UK is terrible, and it's happening here or in Brazil is terrible. I have 2 crowns that broke of my teeth. I need to go to dentist, and they go by books. So he tells me, "Okay, I will take you, but." You have to go to the hospital and get a panoramic X-ray of your mouth. I said, "You really?" Because in the hospitals here, it is all COVID. You say there is no anymore treatment of other diseases. Almost, it is just absolutely horrible because the system. Intensive care is stretched to the limits, and people are treated basically only for COVID. If you get stroke, if you get cancer, if anything happens, you're absolutely screwed. The families are getting destroyed here. You know what is happening here? The poverty rate is growing incredibly, and I told you there are riots now. People are fighting for food. But also, just to show you how inept this government is, they have this so-called emergency family salary, but they promised $100 per person, and they actually didn't manage to distribute this money for weeks and months. And then when they started to distribute it, their system is so bad, so inefficient, that they started to distribute food baskets to MPs. Even like one MP from relatively rich neighborhood of Ñuñoa, she went public and she said, "What the hell are they doing? I don't need food basket. I am MP." But they are distributing these food baskets to the rich neighborhoods, and poor people are starving. So it's absolutely inept, absolutely collapsed, neoliberal, bizarre system.
So lastly, we got a couple minutes left, but how long is it sustainable for? I mean, they might have delayed the protests or delayed the referendum, but at some point the penny is going to drop, and it's just too much, and people aren't going to be believing it anymore. How long do you think they can maintain this?
Oh, they are threatening 3 months. 3 months more of this. The whole country is closed. There is only one flight going internationally regularly, like 2-3 weeks times a week, is to Miami. Of course, they cannot live without Miami, which they call Miami. That's for all the rich. The escape route, but this is gonna last. He's threatening already, or he's imposing another 3 months, and it's with all these draconic, tough measures. So the consensus here is that people who used to protest in October, November, December, they will be back in the streets soon. They will be back in full force, because once the people here, this is not sustainable. People are living in the parks, in the streets. Chile, with all the social problems, was priding itself that it never had these horrible homeless issues like Paris or United States cities. This was not really something that we were used to see. And this is what's happening now. There are thousands of people living on the streets. Venezuelan people who came because of embargo, they came searching for jobs. They were living on the streets. They were living in front of the Venezuelan embassy, asking their government, please take us back to Venezuela, because Venezuela has much better COVID policy, and now they don't have any jobs here. So they were in the freezing cold. They were living in Providencia in front of the Venezuelan embassy before the communist mayor of the neighborhood called Recoleta took them to house them, actually, in the private houses and the B&Bs. So it's this is how low things collapsed in Chile. The Mapuche leaders being killed, homeless people all over, and poor people rioting for food and being met with water cannons. This is Chile of 2021 under the right-wing government of President Sebastian Pinera and his clan.
Yeah, which sounds like an extension of Augusto Pinochet, actually, how you're describing it.
It is. He is a great admirer of Augusto Pinochet. A niece of Augusto Pinochet was in his government before she resigned. And he already, for tens of years, keep talking with great respect about Augusto Pinochet. The Nazi colony Dignidad, the Nazi camp during the Pinochet regime, people were raped and tortured and disappeared, is again producing sausages and bread. You go to supermarket, Villa Baviera, former colonial Dignidad, they are still there. They are. We thought we closed them down. No, they are still there, selling their wurst, selling their sausages to public.
So one last question I want to ask you is unusual policy here from the Pinera government is in the sense that Chile this government is kind of a client government of Washington, D.C. Do you think that the orders came from Washington to keep this lockdown going in order to kind of crush the uprising, as it were, from early this year?
I don't want to speculate. I have no proof, but I wouldn't be surprised, because actually the three client states in Latin America are Colombia, now Brazil, and of course Chile. Historically, the orders, I don't know if they came directly, but they're all kind of indirect cooperation between Chile, United States, and United Kingdom. Don't forget that during the Malvina War, or what you call Falkland War between UK and Argentina, this is the country which was spying on Argentina, using its installations high in the mountains in the Andes, on behalf of the Maggie Thatcher. So, I mean, this is nothing is surprising here. Now, of course, another client state now is Bolivia after the horrible coup. But Chile is definitely a client state. What do they discuss between Trump and Pinera? It's secret. We don't know. But I wouldn't be surprised if there is some kind of a coordination. Because don't forget, this is a war against the left that is being led by the United States. A horrible war which already damaged tremendously Brazil, and which put the fascist government of Agnes to power, kicking out from power Evo Morales, great Bolivian indigenous president. And now there are rumors, if we speak, that in Mexico too, that President Andrés López Obrador is facing very dangerous situation with the elites. I was just reading it on Orinoco Tribune, and I heard it from my friends. So it is a very complicated, very dangerous situation, and definitely, of course, there is a cooperation between Washington and the La Moneda presidential palace here in Santiago de Chile.
Yeah, the Organization for American States is one of the levers of control that Washington runs in order to sort of, push out policy through various South American countries. And so no doubt that's one of the keys there. But yeah, and Mexico resisted the lockdown, by the way. They were very late.
Yes, yes, Mexico. They keep giving numbers, to discredit Mexico. Numbers are relatively high, but you know what? It's also the biggest Spanish-speaking country on earth. It's a tremendous country. So if Mexico infection in Mexico is actually 175,000 and Chile has 236,000, Mexico is 10 times bigger. Mexico debt is 20,000, Chile is 7,000. Just calculate, 10 times bigger, it would have to be 70,000 in Chile as to compare to 20,000 in Mexico. Mexico is actually doing tremendous job. And Obrador said, and I don't quote, I'm just paraphrasing, that, Mexican people are not children. Let them decide. Let them decide what to do. And I'm not going to treat them like children. And his popularity is extremely high.
Yeah, that's the way you have to govern. I mean, that's a strong contract between government and people. And the countries that are doing that, I think in the long run, are going to engender a lot of, trust in the government and the people, and they will be likely stable. That's probably why the U.S. and others are, training their crosshair sites, the CIA and so forth, on country like Mexico, because they don't want that stability. They want it to be unstable.
No, Obrador has a great respect for his people, and he expressed it not through words only, but through his politics, through his policies, and people have tremendous respect for him too. So it's very beautiful, gentlemanly agreement. But if you look also at Cuba or Venezuela, all these countries are doing, all these socialist countries are doing so much better, incomparably better with this right-wing, like Colombia, like Peru, like Chile, where this total lockdowns are in place.
Yeah, Ecuador as well.
Oh my God, yes. Ecuador is terrible. But again, even Ecuador, can you believe it? Even Ecuador is, it has 49,000, today 49,731 cases of infections, 236,000 in Chile. So even horrible collapse Ecuador, where the Lenin Moreno totally betrayed his previous government, in which he was of Korea. Even Ecuador, which is a known case where bodies were piling in Guayaquil, and all this is doing better now than Chile. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, we hope the situation changes course for you there in Chile. Definitely, that does not sound good at the moment.
I'm going to, so I can cover the stories for you, personally, because this is absurd. I'm covering it from the 15th floor overlooking Andes. That's not me, Whenever things happen, I'm there,
Well, we'll have you smuggled out, basically, over the border to Argentina, maybe. I'm not sure.
No, Argentina is locked down too. I'm going to US hopefully in 2-3 weeks, because I have to see what's going on there firsthand. Yeah. But through Miami, of course.
Yeah, the escape route to Miami. Yeah, you'll be there with all the elites in flying coach.
I know.
Wearing your mask, and
well, I wrote somewhere. I said I'm willing to wear the condom, or kind of enormous Macintosh plastic coat and combat gas mask, which I have actually for after covering so many uprising and riots and revolutions all over the world and wars. I have a gas mask. I said I'm willing to wear it on a plane. Just let me on board.
Yeah, I know. It's tempting, isn't it? It's tempting. Well, listen. Take care, Andre.
Patrick, listen. It's always great to be on your show. I hope to talk to you soon.
Yes, definitely. Take care, Andre. That's Andre Vltchek, author, filmmaker, intrepid writer. You can look at his work. There's links on the show page to Andre's titles on Amazon.com, and also follow him on Twitter as well for more updates. We're going to take a short break. I'm your host, Patrick Henningsen. This is the Sunday Wire. We'll be right back.